So the Mavic 2 zoom is lacking DLOG. We do have D-Cinelike, which is still a great benefit, but for many professionals, they are going to want that extra room to work with. So today I wanted to do a little bit of a video to see if it really is a big problem not having DLOG on the Mavic 2 zoom. So stay tuned. What's up everybody, welcome back to Phones, Drones, Tech. I'm Original Dobo, and if you're new here, consider hitting that subscribe button at the end of the video. This should really come to no surprise that the Mavic 2 zoom lacks DLOG simply because it also lacks the Pro name. We saw this same situation happen with the Mavic Air. It only had D-Cinelike and it really wasn't too big of an issue, but with a little bit different of a sensor and enhanced HDR, I wonder if it really is a big issue that it doesn't have DLOG. Now, I typically shoot a lot of DLOG footage just simply because I like to do a little bit more color correction and really pull the most out of my footage. So D-Cinelike should be a bit of an interesting conversation today. So I actually found a clip that I feel has the best of both worlds. The sky is sort of blown out on this and the shadows are pretty dark in this particular shot. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at it and see what we can do to work with. So if we come over here into Premiere Pro, you'll see I have my shot here and I basically just shot this here with an ND32 filter and D-Cinelike. So keep in mind, I am using a filter on this clip here, but I've already actually color corrected it. And I'm gonna go ahead and show you all what it looks like color corrected here as well before we get started. So let me go ahead and hide this clip here. So this is the after. So before and after, you can sort of see it's subtle. The whole idea behind color correction is you don't want to make it seem like you're doing too much. And that's sort of what I did here. I just did enough to really balance out the colors and really bring down the shadows and saturation. So let's talk about how I got to this point here. So first things first, let's start off with the clip here. You have to have your lumimetry scopes open and you can see my highlights are just clipping. They're way above 100 and the shadows are above 0. I like to bring my shadows all the way down. So let's start with the first thing here. Let's go into base correction. And the first thing I do is typically I will bring my highlights down a bit. And I'm bringing it down like -6 to start off. And let's also bring your shadows down too. So bring the shadows down almost to the point where it's not crushing, but bring it down to like -10. Not really quite -10, but just before, because then the next thing I'm gonna do is also bring my exposure down. So I'm bringing it down just to get it underneath that 100. The idea is you want to be just under 100. And I still have a lot of room to really work with in this clip. So that looks pretty good there. And then I think I'm going to bump my saturation up like to 110. And I think 110 gives us a good look at it. Let's take a look. So we're already making subtle improvements and we have a lot of room to work with. And the whole idea is I really like that natural look. And let's go ahead and see how this looks. Okay, so that looks good. The shadows are still a little bit high, and which is good because we still have more room to work. So we can go ahead and bring the shadows down a little bit further. Again, keep in mind, like this grass area here, or I should say the water area here is dark. So we don't want to crush that out, but again, we don't want to bring the highlights down too low. So I'm just going to bring the shadows up just a little bit, and that looks good. I can mess with the blacks if I want, like if I want to bring the blacks down a little bit, but I typically like it right about there. So like 0.4 is just enough. So let's take a look at what we have. Again, that's looking pretty good. We could saturate this a little bit more. So let's bring this up to 115. I think 115 is looking pretty good. Now, the other thing I like to do with my footage as well is I'll go into the creative tab here and I'll mess with the vibrance and I will mess with the sharpness in here. Now, I don't like to over sharpen footage really, just because over sharpened footage just looks really digital and fake and we don't want that. So 1.3 is what I found is a good happy medium, especially when you turn your saturation down and you turn your sharpness down on these DJI drones. The other thing I like to do is bump up the vibrance a little bit, and I'm going to do like 2.5 on the vibrance. So again, I mean, it is super subtle. You probably won't even notice it, but it's just enough to really, you can see, really make the difference in the footage. So when it's all turned back on, you sort of end up with that right there. And I think that works out really well. I mean, if I wanted to, I can saturate this even further, and you can see in my other footage, I had a little bit more saturation. So let's go ahead and bump up that saturation just a little bit more. Let's go to like 1.20. I think that may do it. So we bumped up the saturation a little bit more. And let's take the shadows down just a little bit. There we go. So shadows are down, and maybe the contrast will bump. You can play with the contrast a little bit. So we'll take the contrast up a little bit to 20, or well, let's say 20. Okay, so that looks good. And again, it's something you'll really have to play with, but honestly, I don't really find it to be an issue not having D-Log. Decent alike does give us a lot of room to work with. It's just, this is not a professional camera, so you got to keep that in mind. If you were hoping for professional grade log, you're not going to find that on the Mavic 2 Zoom. So it's another thing to consider. So point in favor of the Mavic Pro. The Mavic Pro 2 does have quite a few more profiles for the professionals, but I mean, this is definitely going to get the job done. If you're good with footage, you can work this out, but unlike the original Mavic Pro that did have D-Log, real D-Log, this does not. So anyways, I hope this video helps in your decision on whether or not you buy the Zoom or the Pro. I know it's a little bit disappointing that there isn't a D-Log, but I don't think we'll see it because this is more of a reason for people to choose the Pro over the Zoom. But anyways, that's going to do it for this video, guys. If you enjoyed, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you already haven't. I will catch you next time. Stay original.
No sugar coated love.